Informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. My name is Ivan Khanna. I am with the star of the show, the lady of the hour, the one who tells me what to do and I do it. That's right, you know her by now. Her name is Miss Gleneva Hodge. And we have two very special guests with us in the house today. Prior to start recording, I just wanted to get the tape rolling because there's so much interesting conversation that we're going to have today. As you know, we're talking all things Anguillan.
That's right.
Anguilla is in our DNA.
It is.
In my DNA for sure. Again, I tell people I'm a mutt. My mother from Antigua, my father from Anguilla, I crossbreed. But I'm Anguillan, it's in my DNA and I'm Anguillan enough. And above all else, I'm Anguillan today, I'm Anguillan yesterday, and I'll be Anguillan tomorrow because what we have been doing so far, thank you so much, Gleneva. I tell her that do what she tell me. She said, Ivan, this is what we're doing this time. I said, okay, that's what you're supposed to do as a man. You say okay and you do, right, Mr. Fleming? Yeah, you just say okay and you do.
No problem.
Yeah, no problem, sure. So we've been having these very interesting conversations with persons around the revolution and what really makes us Anguillan and getting into the minds and the activities of our historians and our guardians of our legacy, if I want to call them that. And we have two persons in studio today in the persons of Mr. and Mrs. Fleming. Can I call you Mr. and Mrs. Fleming?
That's what we are.
See? Listen, I don't understand how excited I just a 2-minute conversation and I charge up and ready for this one here today because she ain't easy, you know. I'll put it out there from now. She ain't easy. Don't mind that she there seems a little quiet and smiling and warm. She's a little fire stick, right? Yeah. Yep, she's serious. But we're going to get to today, Gleneva. Where you want to start?
Ivan,
because I plan to do a lot of listening and laughing today. It started already.
I just want to say thanks to Mona and Felix for being here. I know when I walked into the room this morning, I said, Ivan, these are my parents. This is my second set of parents. And for me, being around Mona and Felix, I have had the opportunity to hear many stories about Anguilla, many stories about our past, many stories about where they think we are going as a country. We have had some very robust conversations. I genuinely enjoy them. And so for me, it is a pleasure to have them here on Progress Report, to be able to give just a snippet of what I know that they know.
Mm-hmm. The truth.
Again. they definitely are a wealth of knowledge, whether it is lived knowledge or I know some of what we're going to be speaking about today would be researched knowledge.
Okay.
For Felix, Mona would be lived knowledge. I've had the pleasure, and Ivan, I know you said that you did not see it. For anyone who did see it and had the pleasure of being able to see it, and hopefully we can recreate it again sometime soon. I had the pleasure of being several characters in the play. I will show you. I will have to show you some pictures. Mm-hmm. But several characters in the play. Pepper in their soup. I know in our previous conversation with Mr. Harrigan, he spoke about when Robert Bratcher came to Anguilla and he was promoting statehood, and he said he's gonna put bones in their rice and pepper in their soup, and Pepper in Their Soup was the fitting name for that play that depicted a small part of the 1967 revolution. I had Again, it was my pleasure to appear in that play, but I had the misfortune of playing several of the police officers.
You didn't play Bradshaw?
My dad did.
Your dad played Bradshaw, but for heaven's sake, plenty for what I learn about Bradshaw and them past episodes. What you want to put on my partner, Glenn? Lord have mercy. Why you do that?
My dad did, and so
I gonna have to talk to him about that.
we're gonna have to find. I know that play was recorded. We're gonna have to find some copies of that play because I think it's important that
listen, if you find
persons
that,
are exposed to it.
if you find that, I post that up on everything government, because I'm definitely interested in seeing that. What I'm learning about the revolution, what I'm learning about Anguilla, then now, and even the vision for Anguilla to come, I'm excited. So where do we start?
Please introduce yourselves.
Oh, you want me to introduce myself?
We've
Yes.
done that, but tell us who you are.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to introduce me. I didn't want to butt in. I was born in 1945, a long time before the revolution, and I was Mona Hunt when I was born. And then I got married at a very young age, 19 or 20, something like that, to Atlin Harrigan.
But that's a name.
That's a name you know?
That's a name that I know. That's a name that. Atlin Naraldo Harrigan.
Atlin Naraldo Harrigan.
They mean that the building name after the Parliament House.
Yes, the
That-
Parliament House. named
That went to
after
St. Kitts to and did all kind of things with the revolution.
him. Did he?
Yes, I guarantee that he did. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, we gonna
Did
ask.
he?
Okay.
I ain't even jumping past that. Did he? You were married to this man.
Yeah, I was married to this man. Please
Ah.
don't jump past me because
Okay.
he wanted to separate Anguilla from St. Kitts at a very young age before I knew him.
Wow.
He started to write letters to the Democrat newspaper in St. Kitts. And he went to England. You know, all the Anguilla people went to England to look for jobs. And when he came back to Anguilla is when I knew him.
Okay.
And though we lived very close together before he left, but I mean, I was a child in that time. You're not looking for no boyfriend and stuff like that. And then, he came back, and we got married soon after. And he said we moved to St. Thomas. You know, everybody moved to St. Thomas to get a job. And he wanted to separate Anguilla from St. Kitts because Mr. Bradshaw was not treating us really nice. You know, Anguilla, I mean. Whenever there was something coming from the mother country to help Anguilla, Bradshaw would keep it in St. Kitts. He built what do you call that thing? A wharf in Sandy Point with money he got from the mother country for Anguilla. So they named it the Anguilla Wharf.
Stop playing.
So I'm not playing, it's real.
So that's a slap in the face.
It's real. And Atlin started still writing letters to the Democrat, you know, getting out this news. And well, he said, I want to move back to Anguilla. I want to move back home. That time we had a baby already,
Okay.
Jess Harrigan. And we came back to Anguilla with my little baby. Now, what am I to do, you know? Just stay home and mind your baby.
What year was this, Mona?
This was in, Jess was born in 65. We moved back to Anguilla like in the end of 66. And then, you know, this thing flared up in 67.
So
The
he started.
revolution.
Sorry, not cut you off. He started writing letters from in St. Thomas.
He started writing letters from in England.
From in
When he went to
England, even before that.
Before he went to St. Thomas.
So this calling, this
Yeah.
vision, this passion, this
Stuff started a long time
started a
before-
long time
yes.
before 1967.
Before 67. Yes.
Okay. Let's
And,
get out there, cause
yeah, it's-
you wouldn't hear that from anybody else. That's not what they taught me in school.
They didn't
I
teach
just
you
hear
that.
1967.
You hear 1967. So the revolution really started in his mind because he wanted to separate Anguilla from St. Kitts. And then
You moved back home in
we
1966.
moved back home the end of 1966. And then you're hearing all these things about you want to separate Anguilla from St. Kitts. So this is such a long story. You can't really remember all the stuff that you want to say.
Maybe I can help you out.
Yeah, help me, because I may talk too much.
No.
No, I was born way before her.
Okay.
So I listen and learn. She said the revolution, the germ for the revolution started with her husband then. I thought the germ for Anguilla wanting to separate from St. Kitts started before I was born. Because I heard it from my grandmother who raised me. They wanted to separate from St. Kitts, right?
And just sorry, not to cut you off. When were you born?
37,
37.
right?
So we gone back even further. This is 30 years before.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, in my time, what sparked another birth to this separation movement was St. Kitts wanted to impose taxes, more taxes on Anguilla. Anguilla, who had nothing, everybody was going to Santo Domingo, England, the Virgin Islands, to look for jobs. Anguilla had nothing. And they wanted to impose more taxes. And that was a turning point, or revving it up a little higher. Then in 1962, when they tried the Jamaica and the other to federate the British Islands, when that fell apart, then England was looking for something to hold her protectorates together. And they came up with this statehood. And that's when the West Indian bigger
Another
islands
spark.
wanted to take. You know, if they can't control, like Jamaica is saying, I'm bigger, I should control.
So
Trinidad is saying the same thing. Barbados is saying I'm the
Best
oldest
position.
of the
Seed of the mother country.
mother
the
country.
seed of the mother country. so you're saying that it is not only did St. Kitts, well, St. Kitts was controlling us and treating us bad. We gather that. But you're saying that prior to this in '62, all these other bigger countries who are part of the whole federation,
British
they
colonies.
wanted to control Angola too. I wanted to be the lead.
Oh, they wanted to be the lead.
Okay.
That's what couldn't happen. They couldn't settle. They couldn't settle their differences.
But still
Right.
today, Jamaica and Trinidad got a little bit of...
I mean, again, history tends to not start at
When
this
you
point.
start, yeah.
There's usually something that precedes it,
Okay.
and so the struggle for Caribbean unity is not a new one.
Now that you said, I see where you're going. It
It's
makes a lot of sense.
it's definitely not a new concept. We have been
Oh yeah, they've been trying.
for Caribbean unity before most of those places were independent countries, while we were all one lump of
Slaves.
yes.
Say it, you say it, you say it. She's trying to be diplomatically correct. That's what we
But
want.
and that is so it's always been, how do you collectively use your power as a people for the betterment? And unfortunately, for far too long, as a Caribbean region, we've not been able to do that. 1962 with the Federation, no different. And recognizing that we've always had one thing in common, which is a colonizing power. We cannot get away from what it is and what it was, and again, what it still is in some instances. And so you had that happening, and what I'm gathering is that the struggles that we face as a country, they weren't isolated somewhat to Anguilla, but it has to be taken in context of what was happening regionally.
Right. Right. So, after the Federation failed, and they came up with this statehood concept, when Anguilla were the last to learn anything or receive anything. But so when Angola's leaders learned about what statehood would entail for Angola, if it is statehood where we become a mini state by ourselves, that's good. You understand? Because we don't want nobody to control us again more than we already have, right? So when the leaders, and you got to give them credit, looked at what statehood would entail for Angola, because here Anglo North is still lump us together with St. Kitts and Nevis, because that's easier for her to administer or control. You understand? She put us together. But we've been trying for 100 years to get away from St. Kitts, right? So you putting us together with statehood, that gives the leader of the parliament, they got more seats than us. We got 1, Nevis 2, and
St.
Kitts 5. Well, then you're really putting us back into a worse slavery that we are in right now.
Facts.
You understand? So that is where the struggle began. And to make it, well, St. Kitts felt it was a foregone conclusion that the statehood, because Angola has no wherewithal to prevent it. You know, we don't have any militia, we don't have resources. So, how do we get the world to understand our plight? We decided, well, we going St. Kitts and we can cause. Yeah, we are going to cause an international
Scene.
Yes.
So that's when we come back to Ackland.
That you come back now to.
I want to go back a little bit. What exactly did statehood entail that made people go, this is definitely not for us? What were some of the key things that were...
It had one key element that was important to Angolians, that St. Kitts would have been in charge of us.
Governing us.
And
still.
you've been trying to get rid. You don't
to
need
get rid of.
anything else. Huh? You with 5 seats in the parliament,
And we
I
got
would 1, you know.
It needs you
Anytime
too. You're
our,
always in the majority.
yeah, anytime our representative get up to speak, oh, shut up, sit down. He can't do anything.
Right.
He has no power. Right?
And we
Even
want
if you're joined with Nevis,
You
you
still
still
don't
ain't
have
got
the
no power. So we ain't going down.
But how could they think that was fair?
Huh?
How could anybody think that was fair? I'm not a mathematician, but I know 5 is
They
more than
didn't
3.
want it to be fair.
No, they didn't care about
So
that.
why bring that to the people?
Yeah, because we were not considered as
people? My God in
You
heaven.
know?
No, you're upsetting me now. Then he was sorry for pushing you.
No, if you're going to do that without thought, giving thought to the people that live in Angola, 60 miles away from St. Kitts?
Yeah.
Huh? And knowing the history?
We were considered less than people.
Of course. Yeah,
Yes,
well,
yes.
we were inconsequential, let's put it nicely.
Okay,
No, I don't want you to be diplomatic.
but I know that Felix was not in Angola at that time, but you were in Angola during the revolution, but you lived in Angola prior to that.
I came in Angola in 69, just
She
after the
means
Brit-
after you were born.
No, before the revolution.
No.
So you grew up in Angola.
I grew up in Angola from 4 years old. I was born in St. Martin. My mother, my father from here.
Okay.
So they had to go.
Right. So they left for a better life.
Right,
You came back here when you were 4. I think what's important is to start to paint a picture of what life was like in Anguilla prior to that time. Because you said that you heard about separation from St. Kitts from your grandmother growing up.
Sure.
What was life like in those days in Anguilla? As a child growing up, what was it like for you to go to school? How did you get to school? I want to break
Was
this.
there a school?
Was there a
Everybody
school?
walk to school.
I want to break it down so that our children today can sort of draw some comparisons to what life was truly like. And I don't think that there's a better person to describe this than a playwright.
Oh yeah, he can tell you how he got to school.
What was your uniform like? Did you have a uniform? What was a day in the life of Felix Fleming growing up?
You really want to make me cry.
No, don't cry.
No.
If you cry, I gonna cry, and I don't think I got a pretty cry.
So yes. Everybody
In
wants to school.
relation to what Anguilla is today, there is no comparison. Our houses, one or two wooden houses, they belong to the more well-to-do, or the landowners, or whether they were handed down from the masters who decided to leave the island because it never, the rainfall, we always had that problem. So growing cotton and tobacco and sugarcane, no, couldn't survive in Anguilla. That's why they left, else they would have been still here. I mean, they're back now because of tourism, you understand? And because of financial services, which that's another topic.
Well, Ivan knows that we
Stop
don't
right,
get
stop
started.
right there.
Ivan knows you don't get me started on it, but yes,
Stop
let's
right
go.
there. Go ahead. 'Cause we be here till next week.
Yeah, so as I was saying, Anguilla in those days, the children from Island Harbor, I went to East End School. The
All the
old-
Island Harbor children went to East
all,
End School.
I'm trying to get to that. The Island Harbor children had to walk, not the children alone, the teachers.
Teachers, everybody.
Had to walk from Island Harbor. The Welsh's children had to walk through the bush.
Well, you were in school when my mother was a teacher.
Right,
She walked.
she taught me. And she walked, her mother walked to school as a teacher. Teacher Daisy, all those, Teacher Isa. Well, I don't know, Teacher Isa, when she came to East End, she had a bicycle.
Because it was
Teacher.
very far. She lived
Very
in
far,
Quarter,
because
in the valley.
she lived in the valley. So, anyhow. And just
And Teacher
yesterday,
Calvin, he rode his bicycle.
yeah, Teacher Hugh, that's Ijania's father. He taught me. That was my mentor. I was talking yesterday to some people, and they were talking about how hot it is and how dusty. And it just made me remember the children coming to school, the eyelids with the white dirt,
Covered with dust.
covered with white. If you wipe it off, you walk 10 minutes, it's
Get it again.
there. The scalp, the dust will settle in the
There
scalp.
was no paving at all in Anguilla. No paving roads.
No paved roads,
No.
No rain,
no rain.
dry, just
Yeah.
that nice steady sea breeze. That
I
we
will
had.
tell you this one that I remember. I think it was in 1946.
So you know when I was born?
Yeah, I was still around. In 1946, I think that was the hardest year I could remember in Anguilla. No, it didn't have rain for something 11 or 13 months. So you could imagine Anguilla, which depended on the ground crops, potatoes, peas, corn, cassava, nothing
Things to
growing.
eat.
What do you do? You know, how do you feed the children? But we developed a system, and I can see some of that still today. And that is, even if we seem like a selfish, greedy people, it's what this rock made us. We are very frugal. We don't shun from work. In St. Thomas, the contractors would come out 7 o'clock in the morning, and there would be people there looking for jobs and so on. Yeah, where are you from? Antigua. Where are you from? Anguilla. Come. Because they learned early that Anguillians give you a fair day's work for the money they got.
Wow.
That happened in St. Thomas in my time, right? So, what was I like?
1946.
46.
The hardest year ever.
Hardest. 2 school children died of starvation in that year. I bet you never heard that.
Never.
No, nobody's going to brag about that. It's not bragging. It's just history to teach the others that coming, that we can survive anywhere. We are hard, we are tough, and we can survive. 2 children died, one from East End School and one from West End. And I remember my family, some of my family, you know, Alistair Richardson, yeah, his father is my cousin. And my grandmother.
I call you parents, but this is family. You're speaking about Alistair from North Hill?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
no.
My
Oh,
sister
you're
was-
okay.
Her sister.
Oh, see. Oh, y'all are all connected now. Okay.
So, his father and 3 or 4 of his brothers would go around every Christmas doing what we would now call street theater. It was called then nigger business, where they collected the stories from that year and then go from house to house with the fellas playing the music, and then they would come up in dresses,
Yeah.
just like the Shakespearean time,
The men
in dresses, and play out the stories. And they were all had fun, you know. I mean, everything, nothing was sacred.
They talking everything. I love
So
it.
this is so interesting to hear, and it's interesting knowing that you said it was
Nigga business.
not only that, but Alistair Richardson's dad. You said,
Oh yeah, his dad and
It's-
his brothers.
It's interesting to see how history repeats itself in
Yeah.
different ways and the modern takes that we have on that. Because a few years ago, we had something called every Christmas time, Christmas Mock-Up.
Yes, yeah.
And Christmas Mock-Up was recorded by Justin's
Yes,
studio.
right.
So it is so
All connected.
Who is Alistair's
interesting.
son?
Yes, it was Alistair's son. And so
All
it's so
connected.
interesting to see how, because Christmas Mock-Up became somewhat the modern version of
Of-
reiterating and
Nigger business.
recreating
Nigger business.
the stories
Yeah.
that happen throughout the year. So that is very interesting to me of how bits of our history, things that I've never heard about nigger business. I've never heard about this
Oh,
before.
you mean the word?
No, I heard
No,
about it.
I've never heard about persons going around
Oh.
Oh,
and
yeah.
recreating the year's stories. And so to have that connection between the past and the present and to link it to something that we are familiar with, that is very fascinating.
No, they
to
just say serenading.
That's what it is, you know. And them singing stories about Christmas, not the nigger business.
Yeah.
I gonna fix that this year. The nigger business. Putting it on record, nigger business 2023.
Because in
I
those
even mean
days,
right.
in those days, if a young girl, let's say for instance, if a young
I
girl
leaned into you because you didn't
got,
give me
if
some
a young
interesting
girl
stories.
got pregnant,
Uh-huh.
that was the interest of the whole village.
The village alone on the
Yes.
island. I was just about to ask you
The
about
island
that.
was just a village.
I know I leaned into something. Wait. Give me a second here. 1 second.
You and our producer.
How news used to get around?
You tell it from one to the other.
That's it.
Yes.
But we still got that problem today.
Like for instance, well now you have the phone, and the minute you get something on your phone,
Yeah.
I will know it instantly. Because you
Yeah.
just press a button and
And
you tell
gone,
me.
yeah.
Well, those days you just shout it out. The neighbor will hear you. He will shout it further on. and
This
move
is stuff
around.
that you would have seen in like them old movies. That's how we lived in
Like
Angola.
even as modern as 1967. It was 67? No, 69. Well, when the police would come looking for Atlin and Ronald and stuff like that, it had a guy up the road with blow a conch shell. And that was the meaning of it. Watch out, police coming.
Police coming.
Stop playing.
No, we're not.
See, these are the stories, because it's the way that we
and blow cancellation again.
it's the way that we communicated. And one of the things, again, as someone who grew up in the age of technology, I grew up with
Technology.
phones and computers and those things.
Yes, technology. But when I was growing up, it had nothing like that.
How did you get, because this is a part that I never quite got. How did you get information so quickly about what, maybe it wasn't quick, about what was happening
Radio.
outside of Anguilla? How did you get that information here to be able to spread that around and to get people
For
together?
instance, it had probably 5 radios on this whole island, people with radios.
So,
And the Anglican priest, he had to come from one church to the other, to the other, to the other. He didn't have a priest for each church. One priest, and if he got the news, he would come around on his bicycle and ringing a bell. Hurricane approaching,
Wow.
hurricane approaching. And this conch shell I was telling you about, if he heard, if he see the police passing, he would blow the conch shell.
And they would know to hide.
Atlin and Ronald must, they were already together. I miss talking how they got together, but I will come
You-
we
going back to that.
going back
But,
to this.
They would come to my house. We lived with my mother at that time in Island Harbor because there was such a confusion going on with revolution. We moved back there.
Where were you living before? You moved back to
We went to St. Thomas, and then
Okay.
we came home to live in the house in Sandy Hill, and then he would take me there every day, but then we slept there after. So the police came to the house. My grandfather was still alive, and my grandmother. And they said they were looking for Atlin Harrigan. My grandfather told them, well, you just passed him. I saw him walking up there on the bridge. There was a little bridge like above the Anglican church in Island Harbor. So the police turned back and they're gone looking for him. And he came inside, he said, Atlin, get out of the house. They're looking for you.
Wow.
My grandfather was just a tick-tock man. He was
Sharp.
very smart, yeah.
But these are stories that you hear in the Bible and all. And then when looking in the later height, I'm like we lived a very our forebearers lived a very interesting life, interesting time. Going back to 46, 67, that period there, the dust with the children, like we talk about how you get things around, the message you told us the priest would go around with a bell ringing. That's how communication was. There was no walk, there was no rain.
And he wasn't driving, he was riding a bicycle.
He's riding a bicycle, the length angle. Are we supposed to have the best cyclists in the world at this point? I mean,
We
Which is
did
why-
have some good ones.
we did have some good ones.
Which is why we are seeing that again.
I believe
Yeah.
so. There's a stable but this is my thing. Like those seeds have been planted, they can only bring the fruit that they're planted with. So from your perspective, before we go into how Ronald and Atlin got together and that connection, we talked about the driving force that's existed way before these two gentlemen.
Yeah.
Before either of us were even considered a thought. You know, like, I guess what I'm trying to, because I when I hear things, I picture, I'm creative, so I just seen like these dirt roads and all these things. Like, why we never gave up?
No, we are
Well,
strong.
they
people.
wanted us to give up. As a matter of fact, several proposals were made to Anguillians to move to St. Croix, to move to Guyana. England proposed that
Curacao,
herself.
them kind of places.
You know,
Is anybody accepted?
that's why
It's our
we
country.
elected to stay here. Our people elected to stay here. That's why Anguillians are willing to die for this. In
You get
69.
Uh-huh.
In 69, a group of us from Anguilla, when we heard paratroopers landed in Anguilla, you know what that meant to us? With guns.
Living in
eh?
St. Thomas.
We ain't got no guns. We were trying to get whatever shotgun people give us to send home, hide on a boat and send home. Collect money to help the school. Or because Anguilla wasn't getting anything from England or St. Kitts.
When England would
You
get
understand?
it, they would send it to St. Kitts and then they would hold it there.
So we had nothing.
No.
Other than what we could
This
help
is-
each other with.
69, England wasn't forthcoming because we were going against what England wanted. You understand? So when we heard that the paratroopers landed, that's Anguilla is invaded. You know, with guns and so our people are going to get killed, right? We chartered a plane, 9 of us, and we came to St. Martin. Got a taxi, drive us up to Grand Cars. My cousin over there, St. Martin, got a little fishing boat with a little seagull, you know, the seagull
Engine.
on it. And 11 of us on that boat. You know,
Tight.
Touching the water.
tight by.
Why you're
He
coming?
dropped us in the water. Up, what do you call it?
Little harbour.
Little harbor.
Uh-huh.
And we come ashore, you know, up to here.
Transport up to here.
Yeah, with your papers
walking
and
in the
things, you
water.
know.
Stop.
And we already knew that the paratroopers were out. That was the word. It would go, messages would go to St. Martin, and the boats would bring it over to Anguilla. Well, what was happening? That was the main communication. And so we came ashore. The West End guys, like Nevon, he passed. I could remember Nevon, another
In a
other
plane
guy.
crash. Yes.
And about 4 of us were from East End. So we took the bush through there. And the West End people took, because the paratroopers had
Everywhere.
everywhere blocked. So they will check you, you know, what you have, you know, and they did that. Yeah, so.
That's
Yeah.
So this is 1969. This is post 1967.
Right.
The paratroopers landed when?
69.
69.
In 1969. Why?
Because the Anguillians refused all the proposals. They refused statehood. Our leaders met with big people from Jamaica, the premiers from Barbados, and had meetings to mitigate this problem that Anguilla is causing for the British
To make
Caribbean.
Anguilla settle.
But here's this, and I wonder if anybody could tell me what that problem is. I opened my mouth, and I told Parsons, the one thing I've observed about the British is they don't like embarrassment. And I think that somewhat fueled, I could be wrong, I think that somewhat fueled 1969, the paratroopers coming in, because this thing was worldwide now. Like the world know, the rest of the Caribbean know that you got this little island of people that hard like rocks and
Rude.
just rude. Them rude. Them mischievous, them ain't taking nothing you give them. We can't be embarrassed. Did that have anything to play with it?
Well, I would imagine. I'll tell you my feelings.
Okay.
My feelings that embarrassment that Anguilla caused England, I think it persists to this day. We wouldn't be treated as well as they would treat Bermuda or the Falkland Islands. Never. I don't think so. Not for what we caused them. They would have to really be a changed society.
Well, even you're doing the eye thing.
No, that's me.
Because it
That's my feeling.
I see the
speaks
truth
it
there.
speaks to how your past affects your present. And you're not gonna get me to go there, Ivan. So I will go back. And in going back, I want to. So I get a feeling. We know May 30th. We had the lead up. We had the meetings of statehood and pushing statehood, Anguillians rejecting the thoughts of statehood. You had what it didn't start it, but it was the height of where we shipped the St. Kitts police out
and all that,
on the
yeah.
30th of May.
So that means we were past the bound now.
Right.
That's
This is-
why we created our own constitution. We governing ourselves at this point.
And that's what I wanted
So
to get
that's
to.
where they
Between
Rebel.
nine,
They had to come.
so
Yeah,
between
yeah.
1967 and what year did we create our own constitution of seeing the flag of
The Republic of
the
Angola.
Republic of Anguilla?
right, the dolphins.
That's another story.
We
got time,
we, were,
keep going.
yeah, we declared Anguilla declared itself a republic. We were a free people. We
That's
were
right.
an independent people. How did we move from declaring ourselves an independent country, the Republic of Anguilla, moving away from St. Kitts to being back into the
Colony.
Colony.
yes?
No, but that was elected. Angola preferred being a colony governed directly by England
Then to be
than
independent.
to be,
Yeah.
No, not to be
More
independent.
independent.
That is
Independent is very
Different.
a very different, very stronger word. Now,
But is that not what it is that we were saying that we were? The Republic of Anguilla, we were not saying that we were independent state?
Yes, you're saying that, but you got to remember the focus. The focus was getting away from St. Kitts. That's what started it for Anguillians.
That was all we
Okay,
wanted.
all we wanted.
Okay.
And whatever England is going to help us with, getting from here to there, it would be between England and Anguilla.
We didn't want a middleman.
No.
We have always been a people that you say we work hard. We gonna pay our way. We gonna find a way to get it done.
Yes. Yeah.
So we I don't wanna
And help each other.
and help each other.
Yeah.
Before going to that, because I want to go back to how Atlin and Ronald, if I may call them so openly.
Yeah.
That's their name.
That, see, I tell you already, I don't want you to misbehave, I don't want you to behave like that. I love her bad, and I love her bad. I could only imagine the fireworks show that you was growing up, and when all of this was going on.
So let's go back to 67. I must first include Ronald as a family. He used to live in St. Martin, and he would come to Anguilla like every month or something like that with his car selling vegetables,
Okay.
cabbage and chicken and stuff like that, and then go back to St. Martin. But when he came to Anguilla, he would stay in my grandparents' house.
Okay.
As Island Harbor was just a family. You know,
One
a family.
family.
So he when Atlin moved back to Anguilla, he decided, because he met Ronald coming to the house and selling his stuff, he said, "Man, let's come join with me and let's get this thing going on to take Anguilla away from St. Kitts." He said, well, okay, yeah, I would help you do that.
Just there.
Yeah.
We right at done.
Yeah.
Because it had to be in Ronald's DNA as well.
Look at here. Look at here. Anguilla, listen, shout out to Gabs,
Exactly.
Elvin and Christina. You see how it fits, man. You're play right for you. See that plug? It's in our DNA. It had to be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. When the police came looking for Atlin, my grandfather told him he just saw him going up the road there. You know, they could go back and see him going back. And he said, Art, he said, get out of the house, you know. Why? And Ronald, they used to always be in the bush if they hear police coming. This is in 67. I didn't have... Now, Ronald wanted Atlin to go to fight St. Kitts. And Atlin said, no, that don't make sense. You know, that does not make sense. Let's go and tell Bradshaw we want Anguilla away from St. Kitts. We don't want any heading over us. You know, anyway,
You don't have the guns.
he
you don't
wanted to
have-
go fight St. Kitts, Ronald. So he came, he told Atlin, man, let's go, you know, to St. Kitts and make a row. You know, shoot up Bradshaw and all of them and get rid of them. That's the way Anguilla would only get on her feet. Atlin said, no, he said, I don't want to make no bloodshed, you know. And Ronald came in, the yard man, with his gun and told my grandfather that, you know, Atlin gotta go with him in this boat to St. Kitts. My grandfather, that time I was making a second baby. My grandfather said, oh, Ronald, he said, you think you can do that? He said, you see that? You see my granddaughter there? That's Atlin's wife, you know, and I was pregnant. He said, no, you can't have no disturbance in that. Anyway, Ronald decided that he going and Atlin must go, because Atlin was the captain of the boat. What was the name of the boat?
Rambler.
The Rambler. And he had quite a few boys with him from Island Harbor.
We heard that list of names.
You got that story.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a story.
No, I said the list of names.
You got a list of names. You keep going. You keep going.
So the boys went on the boat. Atlin went too. He was captaining the boat. Because he knew how to get around without a compass to get from here to St. Kitts. You know, go around the island and go between those two islands out there, St. Martin and Flat Island. And there you got St. Kitts. But he didn't go into St. Kitts. He went into Statia. He knew where he was going. Atlin, captain in the boat. He just wanted to delay the time. So we really don't go to shoot up at Bradshaw. Didn't make sense. You just got to
You
go
don't
through.
hear that, though.
No, we heard that he ended up done. Hey,
listen.
We knew that he went to Statia.
But let me tell
He knew
you.
where he
Let me
was
tell
going.
you.
Okay then.
From the time I heard that the boat, the Rambler, headed for Statia, I said, but this man from Island Harbor, the captain,
Was
Huh?
Atlin.
how many boats did he go to St. Kitts on prior to that?
think
How
about
many
it.
how many boats they owned from Island Harbor, right? His Atlin's very father was a boat owner himself. And from the time I heard that, I had never heard her say that he didn't want to go to St. Kitts. I didn't know that. I said from the time I heard the boat went down there, he knows where St. Kitts is. Because I can take any boat to St. Kitts, you know. He willfully did that so that he'll be
Delay.
late for the merging of
Connection.
the two people, the connection, the mercenaries, or whoever was on the boat, right? And they were late.
Yeah.
And that really messed up the whole thing. It
Not this- not-
it
not
probably,
this-
no,
was
it
willful
probably
mis-
saved.
It probably saved the
Anguilla.
entire. Yeah.
I'm
Now that you're looking
telling
at it,
you.
no, I often tell people, right, is if it's anything I live by, not because my father was a pastor, my mother was a prayer warrior. I firmly believe, like the Bible says, every single step of a righteous man is ordered by God. Life don't just happen. So now that you're saying that, when we heard the story from Mr. Del Prado this week, that he want to know how Atlin ended up down
Yes.
Statia,
Yes.
you're telling me now, on the backside of this, that he knew what he was doing.
He
didn't
knew
want
what he
to
was
go-
doing.
Of course
man.
he knew what he was doing.
Okay.
No, there's an interesting dynamic. Ivan, I am thinking
No,
that
you go ahead,
this
you
is
keep
going to be
going.
a two-parter.
You keep going.
There's an interesting dynamic that was happening. We have these two men who we know were the face and the voices, the faces and the voices of the revolution. At the end of the day, you always get one face as the leader. There's always going to be someone who is considered the leader. And written history, spoken history, we've always referred to Ronald Webster as the father of the nation, the leader of the revolution. But I know that there is, you had the one train of thought that, as Mona said, we achieve our separation by force, and another that said we achieved it by writing.
That's
That
the thing for me. So not to cut you off. I always thought, in all my thinking of the revolution, but there had to be somebody that was the brains, that planning, that was that voice of reason. Because I don't think, you're telling me that, okay, there was a calm, I don't think we just went there, pick up some guns and decided that's what we're doing.
Right.
So I wanted to know.
There must have been a plan.
Yeah.
And even going back to what Mona said in the beginning, you had Atlin, who had been writing about the plight of Anguillians
For time.
for quite some time. We know that news of what was happening in Anguilla had made it on the international stage. It made it on a regional stage where
21 liars.
but that is even into St. Kitts, but
Yeah.
even before that, I know that there were persons who had been going to, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was in Barbados that someone went and expressed our plight. We were writing to these different islands asking for assistance to be able to move apart. So behind the brute force that you had, so you had the physical side of the revolution, but you also had the written side. You had the side.
Say it, Mona, say it. What side was it? You're biting your lips. Say it. What side was it?
I don't want to confuse Neva.
No, but you had that side that had to put pen to paper.
Yeah.
You had the side that had to appeal to the
Intellect, yep.
the intellect and the international agencies.
But that was the whole point of going to St. Kitts. You wanted to make the incident an international incident. You know what will happen when and it did happen. National, international newspapers and radio and TV descended on Anguilla. Huh?
Do you think we know that, based on what we've just heard, that Atlin intentionally delayed getting into St. Kitts
That's my belief.
Yes, he did.
to avoid
Bloodshed, you would
Yeah,
say.
bloodshed, they
One
were
word.
Do you
guns.
think if he hadn't done that, you had gone into St. Kitts, they'd been able to complete the plans that they had, do you think that Anguilla would have been looked upon differently?
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
You think guns would have been blazing when
Yeah.
the parachuters came in?
Right. Exactly. That would have.
That's why Atlin never did want bloodshed.
It would have been the few people we sent to St. Kitts. An organized what do you call it? Defense force in St. Kitts, which must have been at least 100 or more. I don't know. I don't know if they thought that Del Prada and a couple of other fellows, Ruby Gums and
Atlin and Ronald stayed on the boat.
and they don't want to talk about the mercenaries. Had a couple of mercenaries.
We
Yeah, we
heard
heard about
that
them.
they were mercenaries. We also heard that those mercenaries had masks. We
Yeah,
didn't
nobody see their
we didn't see the
face.
faces.
Huh?
We heard that the faces of the mercenaries were not seen. Mona is smiling.
You know the mercenaries, Mona?
Yes, of course.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Wait. Can you skip past that, Glenny?
Somebody-
I wasn't either.
Who's going to hire somebody to go? They were paid.
They were paid by who? People.
No,
As a matter of fact, that incident when people learned about Anguilla's plight
Uh-huh.
and their fight
Uh-huh.
to be separated from Sinkis for freedom, it's akin to America herself.
Wow.
You understand? So a lot started moving. That's how Jeremiah Gomes and everybody else got involved and the ball started rolling. You see? Because we didn't have to send any more money from St. Thomas that we collected and vote scans and stuff. Big money was coming in from
U.S.
overseas,
and everywhere.
U.S., you know, because they were sympathetic Anguilla's cause. It was just like the United States trying to get away from England.
Ah.
They had to fight to get away.
I have a question, and I want to go back to the mercenaries
Then
because
who you want to ask it to? Ask Felix.
I'm gonna ask you because these two mercenaries didn't just pop up out of nowhere.
No. That,
These two people didn't just drop out to the sky and
and
say, "I
they
am
were
going
not.
to go with
They
you."
were not. I am sure they were not the idea of Anguillians. It was not. Because the United States now has an interest. They helped with the,
This is starting to sound like some alphabet people.
yeah, they had an interest now.
CIA.
CIA,
Right? They see
FBI.
big money down the road. They see hotels and,
Whoa!
as a matter of
Man,
fact,
you thinking of some? Whoa, you thinking of some whole lot of chill.
well, look, they wanted to buy.
They saw the potential.
Yes. They want, you know what it is, if this island were to break away from St. Kitts and England
and the US.
and able to pay its own way, but England wouldn't allow that. They talk to America and they compromised. You see what I'm saying? England and America. Because Anguilla would have,
Close your mouth.
you know, Anguilla would have preferred
Uh-huh.
to be governed by America. That's where we all were trying to go. You understand?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my husband.
Uh-huh.
I met him in 1992.
uh-huh.
That's when, you know. But a long time before that is what he's talking about, the revolution. But I must admit that I think I know a lot more than he does about
Yeah.
the revolution.
Yeah.
Because he came here to live in 1989. And, you know, so...
We are going to get right in that because, like Gleneva said, we're gonna honor our radio partners. We're gonna make this a two-part. So we're gonna cut this right here. You literally let me hold on to my seat just now because that is not free. You decide that is not far-fetched. The interest in Anguilla has been there for decades,
course.
centuries.
Has to be.
We are uniquely positioned. We are uniquely structured. Think about it. Like, when you said I saw Anguilla being like one of those bases in Hawaii.
That you
and-
can tie it in a rope and drag it out to sea. That's what he said they would do too.
Coming back to you, you won't get away from me at all in part two. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take this natural break right here, and we'll be back for part two. All I'm gonna say is make sure you tune in.